Hello students, in this module we are going to start chapter 11, Rise of Dictatorship, and we'll begin with the explanation of fascism, its causes, and later onwards the aims of fascism and Nazism. Here we see in the decade after the First World War, that was somewhere around in 1919 to 1929, democracy made a remarkable progress. That means most of the world countries of the world, they turned to democracy. And however, this trend did not last long. It gave way to a totalitarian dictatorship also, because most of the nations which were depressed and which were suppressed by the others and not having a good, you can say, future for themselves, they decided that they have to retaliate, and for that retaliation they cannot rely on the democratic government in their particular country. And that is why, as a result, they started they started working for someone to get and take up the leadership of their countries. And this particular form of requirement, or this particular you can say requirement of the people, made way for a totalitarian government, which was basically called as the dictatorship, and that gave rise to the rise of dictatorship. Here we can even say most of the people, everything these countries threatened, most of the countries threatened their neighboring countries. They refused to abide to the rules and regulations and restrictions laid by the League of Nations. They were not ready to listen to them. In brief, they sacrificed the individual for the sake of the state, and their motto was everything for the state and everything within the state and nothing outside the state. So this was the attitude taken by the people for the totalitarian government. They started working totally for the government, for this country, not even thinking about the benefit or the you can say advantages that an individual should be getting or should derive from the country. They considered that country is uppermost importance, utmost importance, and this should their benefit of the country should be kept away above the benefit of the people of that country. So during this period, even in democratic countries, many people, including some intellectuals and even others, also expressed their dissatisfaction with the democracy, and now they started favoring the dictatorship. So among these particular places which followed and which really backed dictatorship, we have the two main important groups that we are going to talk about in this chapter: the Nazism, which started in Germany by Hitler itself, and Fascism, which was started by Benito Mussolini in Italy. So we are going to start or begin with the Italy and the movement that started from here, and that was Fascism. So the word fascist has been derived from an Italian word which means fascio, Fascio. So this word fascio means a union or a league, those which are together. It also refers to the ancient Roman symbol of power. The fasces was a bundle of sticks. The symbol of this, or you can say the picture of this particular fascist, was basically a bundle of sticks bound together and an axe that symbolized the civic unity and authority of Roman officials to punish wrongdoers. So it was a bundle of sticks along with the axe, and they were all tied together. Axe did not show that it is going to cut the sticks, rather it showed the Roman officials' authority, and it also symbolized the unity of all the other people, these bundle of sticks. So that is, they are all together in a proper league, in a proper union. So thus fascism means autocracy or dictatorship, where the power of the state is vested in one man only. Autocracy or dictatorship basically means the same thing, that there is going to be only one person's rule, and his rule is going to be abiding to the entire nation, or everybody is going to listen to him and they are going to follow their dictator only. So that is how fascism started, and it was intensely done by you can say Benito Mussolini to make everyone follow only his will. Now he took over this particular movement and he became the leader, but what were the causes which led to the rise of fascism? First of all, we need to understand that. First point is discontentment after the Treaty of Versailles. Now, as I told you in the previous chapter, the first group that was formed somewhere around 1882 was the Triple Alliance, in which it was Austria-Hungarian Empire, Germany, and later onwards Italy joined it. But Italy betrayed Germany, and we see in 1914 itself, when the World War started, Italy itself was on the side of Germany, but it broke the Triple Alliance and it attacked Germany, fighting against Germany. So it was no longer in the Triple Alliance, and it kept on fighting along with the other part, the Britain, France, and all the group, and as their allies. But even doing all that particular thing, we can say that this particular group, this particular country was not able, being in the allies group of the as the allies of the winning country, is it was not able to get the benefits of the war. So there was a lot of discontent that although being on the winning side, still it did not get any provinces of Germany, it did not get any particular reparation, it was totally ignored in the Treaty of Versailles. So that discontent made these people totally against the Treaty of Versailles also, and all the other major powers also. They understood that they are just trying to suppress Italy and not letting it become a powerful nation. Then comes economic crisis. Italy suffered heavy losses of life, property, everything during the First World War. And after that, many soldiers now became unemployed because they were employed only because of the wars. And now once the war came to an end, a huge number of people became unemployed, the soldiers. Trade and commerce were ruined, leading to large number of unemployment, and there was shortage of food grain. And the democratic government was not able to take any major steps in regards to solving this problem, and that became something even more irritating for the people, because their problems were not solved by the government, and they felt that democratic government is of no use for them. It is not capable enough to solve their problems of unemployment, providing them food and facilities of job, security of job. Next, we see political instability. Democracy was introduced in Italy for the first time in 1919. Elections failed to give a clear majority to a single party, and therefore, as a result of this instability, we can say in the country, in between 1919 to 1922, 6 different democratic governments or coalition governments came into being, but they all failed to control the situations in Italy, and that made it clear for everyone in Italy that democratic government will no longer be able to manage Italy. As a result, they started looking for someone who could take up the leadership and control the situations in Italy. And at that time, it was Mussolini who came into being, who came into the limelight, and he started ruling over the, you can say, hearts of the people and motivating them by his speeches. He was a very good orator, and most of the people gradually started following his ideas, his thought, and in a way, with a short span of time, he became an undisputed leader of all the people over there. And then he started his fascist movement, or we can say it was the rise of fascism. Another important thing that was the cause for the fascism was class conflict. Class conflict increased during this particular time period in many countries, especially after the World War. And the real issue is, in most parts of the continental Europe, was whether control of government was economics, and economic system would continue in positions of aristocracies or would be in the hands of less privileged majorities. Because if the rich people are going to look after the government, they are only going to take care of themselves, and the poor will be even more suppressed and burdened. So it was a class conflict, whether the poor common people, from them somebody would take over the leadership, or whether it is going to be some aristocratic or kingly person who's going to take the dictatorship. As a result, the common man had been promised during the war that he would be rewarded by greater attention to his economic needs. But it was not done by the democratic government, and that created dissatisfaction among the common people. Then there were various other reasons, threat of socialism and communalism. Besides, we are not doing that particular thing, but you can simply understand failure of the League of Nations. Now, it was after the First World War, League of Nations was formed, and it was supposed to maintain peace in the world by checking the countries which are not able to follow the, you can say, various protocols of the League of Nations, and not disturbing the peace situation in the world. And it was like once one particular country failed and sanctions were given to them, notices were passed on them, and no further steps were taken, people understood that whatever the decision or power was given to the League of Nations, they are very restricted. They cannot do much to maintain peace because the big powerful nations are absent, and their authority is restricted only to passing sanctions and just to check and ask the other nations to come into being and then do the decisions. So in a way they understood that this cannot be a proper check, and that is why Mussolini started doing various things in Italy which were not as per the protocol of the League of Nations. Yet League of Nations was not able to control it, could not able to stop him, and that therefore we can say he started having this dictatorship and his free will done over there in Italy, which even gave rise to fascist movement altogether. Leadership provided by Mussolini. Now we are talking about Mussolini a lot, so we can say why and how people started following Mussolini. That is an important thing to study, and we see Mussolini played an important role in the history of Italy. He had a charismatic personality. His speeches appraised the past glories of Italy. He made people believe that Italy was a powerful place in the ancient history, and that is the same glory they are going to revive. And for that reason, he made everyone believe in him that he is going to do that. He is going to work to bring the past glory of Italy back. And that is how Mussolini became their leader, and he was called Deus, which means the leader in their language. So undisputedly he became the leader of all the Italians or Italy, the natives of the Italy. Important aims of fascism. Now as he became the leader of the people of Italy, what were the main aims of the fascist movement which started in Italy? That we are going to do. I'll read them out for you from the book, and then we'll do accordingly as per the points. So the main aims were: fascism was the antithesis of democracy. It is supposed to be totally opposite democracy. Fascists believed that democracy was not suitable for country because it widens the gulf between the poor and the rich. But fascists are not going to do that. They are going to have parity. They are going to bring the rich and the poor equal to each other and closer to each other and treat everyone with equal regards. Second is fascists supported one party and one leader. They are going to have only one rule, one party, one person. Nobody is going to obliterate or stop or have any obstacle in the working of the leader, and he is free to take his decisions, because obviously it was believed that he is going to take all the decisions for bringing back the glory of the country. Next we see fascists favored equal control over all sections of society. That means all sections of society will be treated equally, whether rich, poor, aristocratic, wealthy, or whatever it is. They will be given equal importance and equal treatment. Next is fascists laid stress on nationalism and not on individual institutions. That means personal advantage, personal benefits, personal gains were not entertained in the fascist movement. They believe that everything they are going to do, they are going to do it for the benefit of the country, and they will do it in the goodwill of for the good of the country, because country's benefit is above the benefit of the common man. They believed on that the interest of the state must get precedence over individual interests. So that is what I told you. Above the individual benefits, always there was the benefit of the country or the goodwill of the country's future. Fascists regarded quality more important than quantity, and therefore opposed that form of democracy which equates a nation to the majority. So they did not want huge number of people in the government, rather they just wanted a very good particular leader, and one is enough if he is properly obeyed and worked upon by his policies are worked upon, and he takes on proper and firm decisions. So that is how they believed in the government form. Fascists favored aggressive foreign policies and regarded war as an instrument of furthering national interests. For the benefit of the country, if one has to take war, they considered it as good enough to take war or go through the medium of war, and that was the important thing of the fascist movement. Then we see fascism in Italy. Italy was reunited under Victor Emmanuel II between 1860 and 1870. That was before the First World War was about to begin. The country was being ruled by Victor Emmanuel III when the World War broke out, and it was lagged behind in industrial revolution and in the race of colonial possessions. Later onwards we see when this was something where Italians were proud of their history and so were willing to listen to anyone who really could bring back the past glory to them. This particular time, at this time, Mussolini took advantage of this sentiments, this situation, and then Benito Mussolini started off as a socialist, and later he became an anti-socialist when he realized that he would get finance from industrialists. That means first of all he thought for the benefit of the society, but then gradually he started working on the, you can say, funds of the industrialists. He formed different groups called fascios, meanings the various groups of bands, who were used to organize violence against socialists and the communists. They adopted the faces as their symbol. Faces means the same symbol of sticks and the axe. These volunteers believed in violence and took over factories, municipalities and police stations. Later onwards, they started their own full-fledged fascist party in the country. A conference of the fascist party was held at Naples in October 1922. That means just few years after World War I. It was attended by 40,000 armed volunteers. That means they were volunteers to do anything for the sake of the country's pride, but they were armed volunteers. That means they were ready to even kill people for the sake of the benefit of the country. In this conference, Mussolini announced that if his demands were not fulfilled, he would attack Rome with his volunteers. Rome was the place where most of the leaders were residing at that time. The demands put forward by Mussolini were as follows. He said, if my demands are not followed, the demands of the fascist party, then I am going to attack Rome and then I'll capture it, bring it under my control. Once the capital is under my control, the entire Italy will be under my control. 5 members of the fascist party to be included in the cabinet of the Italian government. New elections to be announced. The government should act firmly on its foreign policies. That means they need to change their foreign policy, and they involve even war if the people are not ready to listen to it, and economic reforms to be implemented as early as possible. So after all these demands were given by Mussolini, the Italian government turned down these demands. They did not accept it, and Mussolini decided to march towards Rome, and with his 10,000 soldiers he went over there later onwards. And we see that the president was not ready to listen to him, but later onwards when he went to the king was ready enough to listen to his party and give him certain particular these demands. So as a result, the president decided that he is not going to work like this, and he resigned. And as soon as he resigned, the very next day the Mussolini was given that particular post, and gradually he became so powerful that he removed the king also, and he took the entire leadership under his control. And so it was totally under his particular power. He took over the government by fascist. The takeover of the government by fascists was followed by a reign of terror. Within a short time, Mussolini became the absolute master of the Italy. Victor Emmanuel was still the king. Mussolini governed by plain orders or decrees. That means the king could not say anything. Whatever Mussolini said, that was properly followed and accepted by all. But later onwards, we do see after this entire era of terror and everything, it did come to an end, and we see Italy was defeated in the Second World War. The career and life of Mussolini ended in disgrace. He was deposed by his own party council. In April 1945, he was executed, ending fascism in Italy. So with his death in 1945, Italy's fascist era came to an end. What was the impact of fascism? That we'll see. We have many points. We'll do a few points from there in gist. So it is first point. Mussolini devoted himself to make Italy a powerful nation and carried out administrative and economic reforms. He took measures to stall further devaluation of the Italian currency. He set up hydroelectric power plants to overcome the shortage of coal. He brought more lands under cultivation and tried to improve and expand the transport system in Italy. A number of measures were undertaken to reduce unemployment. All factories and mills were nationalized to improve the lot of workers. And besides that, Mussolini started an impressive public works program which included the building of roads, bridges, canals, railways, schools, hospitals, etc., so that people could get employment and more of the employment problem could be solved. All efforts were made to eradicate illiteracy. Various steps were taken to increase the military might of the country so that more and more a huge and a bigger number of you can say army could be kept always standing for the safety and security of the nation. A pact or you can say treaty was made with the Pope by Mussolini, and this is important, remember the name. Mussolini signed a particular treaty with Pope which was known as Treaty of Lateran, Lateran, Lateran. What was this treaty? By this pact, Pope agreed to accept a subordinate position. That means he is not going to be the highest authority. He is going to be under the authority of Mussolini. He accepted it to Mussolini and recognized the Italian government over Rome. Even in Rome and Vatican, it was the Roman government's rule, and he accepted it. In return, the Pope was permitted to keep in his possessions the Vatican and the St. Peter's Cathedral. So if he takes Mussolini's government and recognize it as the government of Rome, in that case he will be allowed to use Vatican City and St. Peter's Cathedral as his own possessions, and that is how this particular pact was signed. Mussolini embarked upon an aggressive foreign policy to revive the past glories of the Roman Empire and to make Italy a great nation. So he did many things to provoke people or invoke in people a feeling of you can say pride on their national glory, or you can say glorious past of the nation's history. And so that is how Fascism has a lot of impact on the people in regards to the job employment facilities and the programs taken over by Mussolini, plus the Pope and the Treaty of Lateran which was signed with Mussolini. Along with that, the other important aggressive policies that were taken for the changing of the government. And that is how Fascism was a particular era in Italy which made it totally under the dictatorship, even made it fight the Second World War effectively. But later onwards, with the end of Second World War, there was an end to the career of Mussolini, and therefore it was finally the end of the fascist era of Italy. So with this we come to the end of the first part of the chapter regarding the fascist. In the next module, next video, we are going to do about Nazism and Hitler. So with this we come to the end of this video. I hope you will understand. We'll see next time in the next video regarding the Nazism.